Wesley Hunt is a candidate for United States Senate, Republican primary for the state of Texas, joins us today. Wesley, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Also, really appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you.
Let's talk about the reason you decided now is the time that you want to run for the Senate.
Now's the time because what I've realized is that this country is just yearning for the next generation of leaders to step up and fight for the future of this country. I always say this is a reason why our vice president is 41 years old, our secretary of state's in his early 50s, our secretary of war is in his mid 40s, and President Trump is setting up the bench for the future. And I believe that term limits are necessary. I believe that it's time for some turnover here in the United States Senate, and that John Cornyn has been around for 24 years, and that is long enough. And as somebody that's in my mid to early 40s here, I am a guy that's going to commit to you 2 terms, 12 years. That's it. And I mean that because I've only done 2 terms in the House. I've term limited myself there. And it's time for us to get back to how our founding fathers intended this thing to be. They wanted people to come from an area of this country, go serve in the halls of the Senate for a short period of time and make good laws, because eventually you have to then go back home and live with the laws that you've made. But we have career politicians that have been around for decades and they never go back home. And I think in the Trump era, that day of reckoning is now upon us. And I got in this race because I'm a West Point graduate. I served in combat. I'm an Apache helicopter pilot, flew 55 combat air missions in Baghdad, earned 3 master's degrees from Cornell University. And I'm a United States congressman here in a district that President Trump would have won by 20 points, and I won by 25 points. That is the kind of America First patriot that Texas is looking for. I was the first person in the country to endorse the president. And when I saw polling come out about a year ago and 6 months ago that had 20+% of the electorate that was undecided against 2 guys that have been around for decades, I realized that they were looking for somebody new. And that's why I threw my hat in the ring.
Let's talk about your education background, your military background. Thank you for your service, of course.
Thank you.
How can the people, the Texans who are living paycheck to paycheck, who are shaking their heads at everything they pick up off the grocery shelf, how can they say, this guy relates to me?
Well, it's very simple. I grew up in a military house. I grew up in a middle class home. My dad's a retired colonel. My sister, brother, and I all attended and graduated from West Point. At one point, we were all deployed at the same time in the Middle East in 2006 for 2 months. We are a family that believes in this country. We are the family that's willing to die and bleed for this country. And that means taking care of every American, all Americans, because we are them as well. I want to tell people this, though, as difficult as it might seem, and as prices and cost of living might seem high right now, I want people to keep this in mind. A year ago, President Trump won this presidency because of the border and what else? The price of eggs and the price of gas. Well, 1 year later, the price of eggs and the price of gas are down. The Dow is up. Inflation is down. Our GDP is up 5.1%. Now, if Kamala Harris and Walz were our president today, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It'd be an utter disaster. And are things where they need to be and are things where we want them to be? Not quite yet. But that's why we have to continue on this path and continue to trust the policies that are being implemented that are continuing to put us in a better place. That's what America First means. And I am somebody that wants to codify a lot of these good policies into law for the future of this country. And I'm going to have to be around to live with it. So that's how you can trust that I'm going to do right by the people of Texas.
All of the polling seems to indicate top three pretty close. You're one of those three. There are people who are Republicans or independents. There may even be some Democrats who have a problem with Donald Trump in the way that he behaves, not necessarily as he is as a president, but as he is as a person. Where are you with President Trump there? Where's the space between Wesley Hunt and Donald Trump?
Well, I want to let people know that I was the first person in the country to endorse President Trump on his last run. I was one of his top surrogates this past year. I campaigned all over the country with President Trump, flew with him on his plane, met him in various places, opened for him when we were in California and Nevada and Pennsylvania, spoke all over the country. And here's what I want people to know about President Trump. He doesn't have to do this. And he is a billionaire that literally is giving up his life to continue to serve this country and find a better way. You may not like him, but he is extraordinarily authentic and he is who he is. He is not a career politician. He was a businessman before this. And I am somebody that's got to spend some time with him. We've built a pretty good relationship, and I like him a lot. He's been very good to me. He's been very good to my family. But at the end of the day, everybody has different styles. And so when you ask me what differentiates me but for me from President Trump, I would argue that it's style. We have a very similar view of the world, the idea of having peace through strength, the idea of having a secure border. But if you look at me and look at him, we are all our own different people. I have a different delivery and a different tactic, but I do kind of see the world the way he does. And that's ensuring that we have a strong America for the future. So again, you may not like somebody's personality, you may not like their style, but you still have to operate what's in the best interest of the country. And that's why he was reelected.
ICE has decided to step away from Minneapolis. They are going to leave it for the people there to settle. This is Texas. This is a border state. ICE is here. There are people scared of ICE. What would you say to people who say, if this is a guy who supports what ICE is doing in Texas, he's not my guy for U.S. Senate?
Oh, well, that's very interesting. We know if you're noticing here in Texas and actually in other red states, yeah, there may be a kerfuffle here or there, but there aren't very many issues with ICE here in Texas because we are cooperating with the federal agencies. And at the end of the day, people need to understand when Barack Obama was president, he deported way more people than President Trump did. And what agency did he use to do it? He used ICE to do it. Now, people weren't trying to play political football ahead of a midterm and making a big deal out of it, but it's the exact same thing. So I don't care who the president is. I don't care who the president is. You have to abide by the supremacy clause. And when somebody enters this country illegally, you are in fact breaking federal law, and the federal government has the choice to act on that. And we have to cooperate with them. End of discussion. Now, if you don't like that, the idea of going after the actual agents is unacceptable. Then you should change the politician and change the people that make the laws and ensure that you win the next election. But the people on the ground are simply doing the jobs that are being told to them by the federal government, and I support them 100%.
Affordable housing, workplace housing, whatever phrase you want to use, it's a problem in Texas and all over America. What part should the federal government play to help make affordable housing there?
Well, the issue is the federal government also needs to understand where the federal government does not involve. It does not need to get involved. You know, part of me being a United States congressman and part of me running for United States Senate is to ensure that we find ways to keep the federal government out of your life. Look, Texas is actually a really good state. It's the fastest growing state in the entire country and part in the entire country for the past decade. And part of that reason is because of affordability. But now we're seeing insurance premiums skyrocket. We're seeing mortgage rates go up. And actually, a lot of this is at the state level. You don't want the federal government getting too involved with this because it's going to make things more onerous, more burdensome, and then your taxes are going to go up. And last I checked, Texas doesn't have any federal state taxes. So that's a good thing. We need to continue that. Now we need to let Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor work to make things more affordable here in Texas, especially from the housing standpoint. But again, you don't want the federal government involved. And part of my job is knowing the difference between a constitutional republic when we should get involved and we should not get involved.
Texas A&M's role in defense research and this district's conservative lean. How would you advance America First's foreign policy, supporting strong national defense and backing our allies like Israel?
Yeah, I am here. I am a guy that served in one of these decade-long wars that cost us $3 trillion and thousands of American lives. So I'm the guy that is all in on peace through strength, having a very strong military, one standard, like when I came up through West Point, like when I was in the military, not based on race, not based on sexual orientation, no DEI. Do you want to serve this country? Do you want to be a soldier? And do you want to fight? A strong fighting force, a strong military force for the future. Being at the technological tip of the spear is something that's also extraordinarily important for us to do. But when we do our jobs right and we have peace through strength, we will have a strong military, but we don't have to send you abroad unless it is absolutely necessary. The strength that we have seen on display from President Trump with Iran, with what happened to Maduro and Venezuela, that's how we prevent from having decade-long wars. And when this was all going down, especially in Iran, I was looking at my liberal friends and some Democrats are saying he's going to get us in World War III. Last I checked, there's no World War III. After capturing Maduro, last I checked, there's no World War III. In fact, we have gained a lot of respect. I don't see 4th ID, 1st Cav, 82nd Airborne deployed anywhere in terms of divisions being on the ground. Why? Because we are stronger than we've ever been and we are respected. That's how we have to continue moving forward. And we have someone like me that has fought in these wars. If somebody like me sends you to war, it means it's time to fight, and our freedom as we know it is at stake. That's the kind of leaders that we need. It's not about a money grab. It's not about getting paid. It's not about lobbyists. It's not about big corporations. It's about, if we need to potentially risk your life, it's going to be for a good cause. That's exactly what President Trump represents, and that's exactly who I am.
Characterize the changes in the Texas Republican Party that you've seen over the last 10 years.
See, I got, first time I ran for office was actually 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
6 years ago now.
But I have to presume that you saw the field before you got into the race, so observing the party.
I most certainly did. So, the party has changed in the last decade, because what people need to understand, whether you like it or not, it's a fact. This is President Trump's party. We are now a decade into the President Trump being the president in 2016 through 2020. Then he lost the election, right, up for debate, but then was reelected this last election. This would have been a 12-year run where President Trump was in charge of the party. He is actually, arguably, and really not arguably for me, but some would, the most popular Republican primary president in the history of this country. That's a seismic shift from what we have seen in the past, especially from the Bush era Lincoln Project type Republican. And this is why John Cornyn is polling in the 20s after spending $80 million, because the era of that politician is over and everyone knows it. It's the reason why Ken and I are in first and second place. And that seismic shift from the Bush era to the Trump era of politics, and those that have been able to adapt with it are the ones that have become that have become very exceptional politicians. I think the person that has done this remarkably well is Marco Rubio. And you see how well he is doing. He is a guy that actually ran against President Trump in 2016, and now he is doing an excellent job as being the Secretary of State. He is somebody that recognized what was happening. He recognized that Trump is the leader of this party, and he adapted accordingly. John Cornyn did not.
Wesley Hahn is a candidate for the United States Senate from Texas. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you very much. God bless you.